are surfing in 2 weeks. So if anyone here wants to join us for a surf, you're welcome to do so.
All right. Yes. Bring your boards. Very cool. Well, hey, quick note, just I opened the chat. So if you do want to chat, you might need to click the little chat icon. I know we've all done Zoom before. It's still confusing, even after all this time. So just make sure when you click the chat little arrow, you change it to your panelists, that you are chatting with everyone, not just panelists. Okay. And then there's a Q&A box that if you have a question that you want us to get to towards the end of this, drop it in the Q&A box. We'll check the chat too, but just so we don't miss out on anything, that's what the Q&A box is for. Very cool. All right. So anyway, hey everyone, I'm Joe, Intaker. You all probably know me a little bit. If not, I'll give it a very quick introduction. You know, I handle the partnerships here at Intaker. That's working with agency partners, including our marketing co-op partners. We have one, it's Matador Solutions, but they're awesome. Nick's going to tell you a little bit more about them. But, you know, my goal is really to help both our partners, and that might be integration partners, other software companies, that might be, you know, agencies or mastermind groups. Like I mentioned, my friend Richard James before, you know, helping them make their members as successful as possible using not just chat, but all the intake automation tools that we have brought to bear. And I'm just really excited because, you know, Nick and I met last year and we've been talking and kind of getting to know each other. And it turns out we've got, you know, more mutual clients now than we realized, but I'm excited to have him on and talk about this special thing we're going to talk about today. Not just LSAs, not just intake automation, but kind of the mindset, the psychology. What do you need to win? So anyway, without further ado, Nick, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks so much, Joe, for having me on. You know, I know we've worked together a bunch. So my story is I am the son of two trial lawyers. And if you go back to when I was like 12 years old, I had first started, you know, learning to code and learning to use the internet to generate cases. And Matador, which I'm the chief operating officer of, was born out of that. And today, Matador works with just about 150 firms across the country in an agency meets a think tank environment where the bulk of our work is around getting you onto page 1 of Google, so SEO. Website development is the second thing. The third piece of the puzzle that we do is LSAs. And then as a co-op, we have an information sharing, we have an ecosystem that helps small to mid-sized firms compete against much bigger ones. And so together, we help answer the tough questions like, how do you use chat? How do you use 24/7 phone answering? How do you generate video reviews? How do you generate Google reviews to beat out the competition? And all of these things together help us have great relationships with these firms across the country.
Very cool. And one more thing I've noticed about Matador is it's not just big firms, it's not just little firms, it's really firms of all sizes that are part of the co-op. And I know because the people that I work with who are in Matador, some are big, some are small. So it's pretty cool that you're able to kind of cross those boundaries and find what's working, you know, maybe for the big players and help the little players and vice versa too, right?
Yep, exactly.
Very cool. All right, so I'll jump in. Quick overview of the agenda. Nick is going to share a bit of LSAs. He's, you know, that's an area where he and Matador have kind of been able to create a strategy that he'll tell you more about, but it seems to be working. So if you don't use LSAs, if you're curious, or if you've already tried it and are looking to improve, you're going to get something out of that. The next part of the talk, I'll be going through more of these intake automation tools. Again, if you've seen this kind of webinar with Intaker before, you kind of know that chat is where we started. We've grown into more lead management, intake automation, different tools that law firms can use to really make these leads more valuable, because it's not enough to just get a contact, right? We need to be able to have a process to turn that into someone who will become a loyal client, a raving fan customer. And that's where we'll talk about some of the new things and, you know, repeat some things that maybe it's always good to, repetition is the mother of skill. So it's good to make sure that you're following the best practices. Anyway, and then at the end, we'll have time for a Q&A. If anyone, you know, if we get some really good questions, we might bring someone up onto the stage to talk as well. From the audience. But anyway, let's just go ahead and jump in. So quick intros about the company's intaker, legal chat, marketing automation. If you are not familiar with how this looks and works on websites, it's a way for you to add your face, your warmth, your personality, your personal touch to your chat. So when people come to your website, it creates a different level of experience. But that's not just the only thing. The automation is designed to capture more leads quickly because the speed is very fast, qualify them with the right questions that are all pre-built, and then all the other tools that you're going to need, from texting to pipelines to tracking for leads from stage to stage, including some really cool new features that I'm going to talk about in a little bit, to turn more of these chats into phone calls, right? Without you or someone else having to do the work of picking up the phone. Imagine making every chat an inbound phone call for your firm. So, and yeah, there's more, but I'll save it. So anyway, I'll pass it over to Nick to introduce a little bit about Matador.
Sure. This is most of what I hit earlier, Joe. This is, our background. We have 150 firms in some of the most competitive markets in the country. We do all of their SEO. Not that we think SEO is this super sexy thing, but SEO, when done correctly, has the cheapest cost per case available to firms. And that's why we do it and why we're very good at it. We then do LSAs as a layer on top of that. And then this third piece is that ecosystem I discussed. So anything that a firm needs in order to market better, convert better, operate better, we have data on, we have relationships with, and someone else has been in your shoes before, and we can help.
Very cool. So you want to jump in?
Sure. So LSAs are these faces that you'll see at the top of the screen, and they are very different than traditional Google ads. They've been out for about 3 years for law firms. And there's a couple key differences here that I want to make sure everyone is aware of. If you're already familiar with LSAs and they're not working, give us a shout. We can do, a deeper dive review. But at the highest level, the key points to know about local service ads, or some people will call them Google screened. So they're pay per lead. Unlike traditional pay per click, this model, you're only paying either per call or per message. Within the back end of the platform, you can define your practice areas. So if we talk about the personal injury sphere, for example, you can actually target med mal yes, med mal no, dog bite yes, dog bite no, scooter yes, scooter no, etc. Unlike traditional pay-per-click, where you need to actually write all those out and sometimes variations of that. Google has superior trackability, and it's much easier to manage when compared to traditional pay-per-click. That is because within the Google platform, they are recording every single call. So if you have your own tracking systems, right, which we'll talk about the best way to do that in a second, you're actually able to very easily go in, see what happened on the call, add notes, and then add it to your own tracking system to get to the ultimate question here, which is, what is my cost per case? The fourth main difference between a local service ad or Google screened ad and a pay-per-click ad is you have the ability to dispute. So if you are a personal injury lawyer, for example, and someone calls you for an estate plan, they need a new trust or they need an irrevocable trust or whatever it is, you actually have the opportunity to go in and say, hey, Google, I'm not marketing for this. It's not my practice area. It's not checked. Can you please credit me? One of the things is that you want to be very careful with how often you use this, depending on your practice area. But it is usable and it is a valuable part of the platform that anyone doing this either in-house or with an agency should be aware of, to ask the question, what's my dispute rate? And then number 5 is, this actually says a higher cost per lead. I'm sorry about that. But you'll typically see a lower cost per case on LSAs, but a higher cost per lead. And that's because the conversion rate on pay-per-click is lower than we'll see on LSAs. And sorry about that. I'll go ahead and fix that when we send the PowerPoint out to people.
Yeah, you're paying less for a customer, but you might be paying a little bit more for a lead. But in the end, the numbers work a little to your advantage. Is that right?
Exactly right. And one of the things we'll traditionally see with pay-per-click is that the people that will come in through pay-per-click are typically more price sensitive depending on your practice area, whereas that's not so much the case with LSAs.
It's very interesting. I know you're going to go a little deeper, so maybe we can talk more numbers
Yeah.
in a little bit. But would it be good to take a look inside the LSA platform? Is that what you wanted to do?
Sure. I wanted to just give everyone a sense as to what the inside of the platform looks like. If you haven't used it yet, if you have used it, this will be familiar. And I'm going to get to the data, the important stuff in a second on what you should be measuring your own success against. So this is just what the leads look like. The next slide is really just what the back end looks like. So what I have here is, it's actually my family's firm that I have up. Just was easier to take these screenshots. You can see on the right, we're actually selecting city by city. On the left, we're doing a little bit of the business bio. So in this case, we're doing all of Washington, DC, and then most of Maryland. You could probably flip on through. So we need to add pictures. We need to showcase our hours. If you're a personal injury lawyer, it's our recommendation that you always show you're available 24 hours a day on everything that you're doing. For other practice areas, there's a little more wiggle room in that. But if there's any personal injury lawyers in the chat, highly recommend that you have the ability to answer phone calls 24 hours a day and that you reflect it in your Google My Business and your LSAs. So this is where the magic happens. And this is what a lead looks like. And so obviously the names and phone numbers have been redacted. But if you look in the bottom right where it says show recording, this is how we know what happened on the phone call and how we know if it was a good lead or not. And so you can see when the lead came in, it came in at 7:30 in the morning. This is why having 24-hour answering is really important, because our intake team is not in the office at 7:30 yet. The next row where it says completed is just when we reviewed it. So you need to engage with the platform every single day. You can see the lead type. So LSAs have a phone option and a message option. Feel free to throw in the chat if you're seeing success with messages. Typically, we recommend you turn them off unless there's a very good reason that someone in your office can respond to them very quickly. You can see the service type, and then right in the notes section, you'll see it was a car accident, the potential client's children were injured, and we scheduled a consultation. So this looks like it'll be a pretty good case.
Very good. And Nick, I learned something when we talked the other day, but the messaging option for LSAs. So instead of just calling in, they can leave a message. And you said it's kind of like a chat, but that's inside the Google platform. Is that right?
Yep, exactly. So you can reply, a potential client can send you a message right from Google and you get a notification. You can either respond via the app on your phone or you can respond in the platform. We sometimes will see success with this, but in general, it's our recommendation to start with phone calls. If your response rate is low and you're not engaging with the platform, it can impact your ability to get delivery.
I see. And as far as this is a noob question, but is it the same cost for messages and phone calls on the LSA platform, or are they different?
Right now, they seem to be kind of in line.
Okay.
It can sometimes bring down your cost per lead when you add messages. But again, for us, we're way less focused on what our cost per lead is and far more focused on what is our cost per case. And for anyone doing any ad product out there, whether you're looking at Facebook ads or you're looking at LSAs or you're looking at lead purchasing, we always recommend that at the end of the day, you work off of cost per case. And if anyone has questions about what their cost per case should be, throw it in the chat and, we'll go ahead and reply to it.
Yeah, and also I am curious, I don't have a poll, but I would like if anyone is using LSAs right now, just if you're using it, just drop it in the chat, letting us know, hey, I'm using LSAs. And then maybe we can get into, what's working for you. in the audience as we continue. Anyway, this is good, and I think I'll try to move on to the next part. Go ahead.
Okay, so we kind of just took a look at, Joe. We looked at, and Haley, I see that you're using LSAs. If you're not tracking in this way, give me a shout and we'll make you all a tracking sheet that's easy to use. We track our LSA leads in a third-party Google Doc. So you can't track exactly what happened beyond the substance of the lead in the LSA platform. And so what we do here for all the firms that we work with is in column A, you'll just see the prospective client name. Column B, you'll see the type of accident, or if you're an estate planning lawyer, what they called about, or if you're a criminal defense lawyer, was it a theft, a robbery, a DUI, what's going on? And then in column C is the date of the call. In column D, this is the most important piece and something that needs to be engaged with, every other day, you'll see that the firms have an option to select what happened on the call. So was it rejected? Was it signed? Is it pending? Did we refer it out? Was it just not really an actual case at all? And was it referred and then retained, or was it referred and then rejected? Referred meaning, was it sent to another law firm? And what this ultimately helps us get to, and this automatically pulls into the next slide, is the real question of what is my cost per case? And so the data that I have up right here, this is for a personal injury firm. If you're not a personal injury firm, the same math will apply, but your cost per case and perhaps your conversion rate will go down. Typically, if you're a personal injury firm, we want to acquire cases through LSAs at under $2,000 a case. We're in a really good place for that. And everyone who is familiar with the personal injury model, will probably agree with those numbers. If you're an estate planning firm or you're a criminal defense firm, generally the number that we'll see across the co-op. So we, again, 150 firms. This data is based on, and this data is one firm, Joe, but the best practices are based on calls with 100 firms and close to $1 million in spend on this. So it's pretty data heavy. And this is what we build for the firms that we work with. Again, if anyone doesn't have a simple tracking sheet like the one I just showed you, give me a shout after, we'll make you one and we'll take a look at your account for you. And so in the bottom, what I want to focus on is the bottom row. So this firm to date, as of about 2 or 3 days ago, has spent $86,574.64 on LSAs. They have acquired 63 cases through the platform directly attributable on 445 leads charged, spending about $195 per lead. This is, again, a personal injury firm. They have a 14.16 conversion rate on charged leads. So sometimes if someone calls you and they hang up right away, Google won't actually charge you for that lead. If you're a personal injury firm, you should target around 13 to 15% conversion rate on these leads. The next column is expected credit, and then the credit rate. This column is blank for the personal injury lawyers that we work with. We have taken a policy based on our phone calls to not dispute any leads whatsoever, so long as you're hitting your cost per case. And what this gets me to on the right is the most important number, that whether you're a law firm owner, you're an internal marketing person, you're an associate, whoever you are, you should know this number for the firm. And right here, you can see this firm is acquiring cases at $1,374.20 per case. And each of those is for 63 personal injury cases. Again, if you're a different type of firm, I would target around 8 to 10% of the fees generated as your cost per case.
Very cool. And, Nick, this is helpful, just like seeing actual numbers. I also noticed that Kirk is in the chat, and he said that, he's used LSAs, but not had success because, a lot of the calls are just price shopping. And so I'm guessing, for certain practice areas, right? There's going to be differences for, contingency, PI sort of stuff. You may not have that, but what would you recommend? And we can save this for later, but I just want to pose it to you now, to someone who is in that situation.
Kirk, could you maybe throw in what practice area you're in or just shout it out?
Yeah, drop it in the chat and we will get to it. And I think as we, so family law.
Yep. So have you built, Kirk, I would recommend you do utilize the disputes here, first off. Second off, I would take a look at what the practice areas within family law you're going after. And then I would love to know if you're tracking in this way and actually know what the cost per case is. Those are the three things that we need to know before evaluating it. And so maybe, Kirk, at the end, we'll give you an opportunity to chat about what you're seeing in terms of cases and number of leads, and what your dispute rate is, and then help you evaluate what the cost per case is and try to make some tweaks there. But I would look at the practice areas. One of the things, for example, we'll remove is when you have these cases that we know have a low conversion rate because you have to sort through a lot of leads to get to them, we will just turn those off. The best example is like medical malpractice, where we know that we need to get through a lot of leads in order to find one case. We'll turn that off.
Good. That's pretty actionable. All right. Thank you. You got a couple more, so I'll let you keep going.
Yep. So there's a couple key issues with LSAs. Most of the issues that people have are not getting enough delivery, meaning they're so competitive, the cost per case is so good, and Google just isn't showing their ad enough. And so we have found, again, based on 100 phone calls and interviews with firms, many of whom we work with, but many of whom we also do not work with, and we're just sharing information with in this co-op environment, on close to $1 million in spend. And there's a couple items that you all should be doing, or if you have a marketing team, they should be doing, or a marketing vendor, they should be doing for you and helping you with. The first is you can't miss calls. So you have to have a solution in place to where no potential lead is missed. If this happens more than a few times, we have seen that Google will stop showing your ad because it's not reliable. Number two, you can actually get LSA specific Google reviews. So LSA is tied to your Google My Business, but you can also get specific reviews to your LSA profiles. We recommend getting at least an LSA specific review a month. If you all don't know how to find your LSA review link, give me a shout. We'll help you find it, or we'll send you a link on how to just find it yourself. When you get leads, you have to engage with the platform the day of. So if you remember that earlier slide where we were looking at talking about exactly what happened in the case and whether it was booked or not, engaging with the platform is a daily practice. If you're not able to do that internally, maybe there's a team member who can do it, or if your marketing person, vendor isn't doing it, make that suggestion to them. 4 is minimize your dispute rate. Jennifer, yes, we have worked with, Jennifer just threw a question asking if we've worked with employment law firms. Yes, we have. Your dispute rate can typically be a little bit higher, but if you want to share any data after, happy to take a look at it. If you're a personal injury lawyer in the chat, we recommend that you have low to no dispute rate. And when people are starting on LSAs, it always takes about 3 months for their cost per case to dip. And so we recommend for those first couple months, getting a little comfortable with paying a little bit more per case, just to see what the cost per case shakes out as and ensure the most delivery. Which leads me into number 5, which is know your numbers. I talk to so many firms who don't know if their LSAs are working, or they think they're getting leads, or they just don't know what the numbers are. And we're able to build them a really clean tracking sheet that takes them 10 minutes a week and helps them get to the ultimate question, which is, what again is my cost per case? And everything we look at operates from that mindset. And so then you'll get backtracked into it and say, okay, well, hey, I'm a personal injury firm or I'm an employment firm like Jennifer or whatever it is, and I'm only converting 9% of my leads, but I know the co-op that benchline is 13 to 15% benchmark. Okay, then we need to look at what's going on those conversions. Are people sitting on hold too long? What's the follow-up process look like? And if your leads stay the same, but we increase the conversion rate, then this is where you see a ton of success.
Very cool. Know your numbers. We're going to come back to this idea. So, and I know we're going to go a little bit over today. If anyone has to drop, this will be recorded and sent to you, but Nick has a little bit more. I'm going to share some really cool stuff. And so I encourage you, if you can, hang out a little bit.
Key metrics we hit. I'll fly through this. I don't want to take up too much of everyone's time. 13 to 15% on charged leads. Keep your dispute rate less than 10% of your charged leads. If you're a PI firm, if you can get under $2,000 a case, you're in a really good position. If you're, an employment firm, probably the same kind of story. And if you're any other non-contingency practice, target around 8 to 10% of the fees generated.
So the cost per case you should target is about 8 to 10% of the fees generated for most practice areas that are not contingency based. Is that what you said?
Exactly.
All right, very cool. All right. And I know dude, this next one blew me away when you showed it to me. So I'd love it if you can tell people what we're seeing here right now.
Yeah. So this is what we call the golden trilogy. This is the best way to decrease your cost per case on the internet. I'm just showing what happens to be in my family firm. If you look in the top left, you'll see Cohen and Cohen. That's my pops. He looks like me, but with gray hair. And but we're doing this for 150 firms across the country. And again, the ultimate situation, if you're an aggressive marketer or you want to get more cases on the net, is to have a local service ad, to have a map listing, and then to have an organic. If you're just getting started in the internet, keep in mind that top local service ad is always like paying rent. So the second you stop putting money into it, you have nothing to show for it. Whereas map listings and organic have the cheapest cost per case, and it's like building equity in a house. And so, if anyone's considering investing in one or the other, chat with me. I'll chat with you a little bit about the benefits of each and make you a recommendation there. But in terms of decreasing your cost per case, we want to have market saturation where you have an LSA, a map listing, and an organic.
I just love it. So anyway, if anyone is curious, because I think these also are kind of the main buckets that Matador helps people with, right? It's not so much, PPC, dumping money into that. It's more, the paid channels, the LSA, but the focus even before LSAs were out were, organic local SEO with maps, and then traditional SEO with website search. Is that right?
Exactly. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Very cool, man. Well, Nick, thank you. And don't go anywhere because I'm going to, ask for some of your input as we go. But anyway, everyone, thank you so much for sticking with us. This first half, we talked about LSAs, what they are, how to use them. But like anything, if you don't have a system in place, like what Nick said, if you're missing calls, right? If you don't have a system in place to turn every good lead that comes to your firm into a client, then you're missing out. You're wasting money on your marketing and other things. So how can we help? What can you do, even, small shifts today to start to move in the direction where you're using more tools, especially the automation tools available to you today are, compared to 5 years ago, such a game changer. Things that large firms are using that now, before there was a barrier, small firms couldn't really use a lot of these tools. Even getting started on a product like Salesforce, it would take, months or years and tens of thousands of dollars just to set up, right? Nowadays, you can use tools, and Tigger's one of them, not the only one, that can take a lot of that benefit, that functionality, and give it even to a firm that might just be starting out, right? So before we get too into the technicals, I just want to focus and think about, you're a law firm owner, you're someone who's maybe tasked with, making sure business is coming in. What do you need to know about growth? What are those results that you need to be looking for to generate for your firm? We all know that phone calls, leads are the lifeblood of any business, but phone calls are really the biggest for law firms. Still to this day, about 80% of total volume of leads generated for most firms is by phone. That number is changing, right? It used to be 90%. Maybe in a couple of years, it'll be 70%, right? More people are using chat and these other channels, but if you fix your phones, that's what my friend Richard James always says, if you fix your phones, you're much more likely to hit those growth targets that you set. Having a system to be able to sign more clients predictably so that you're not missing out and wondering what happened. And it's, people often would blame, the leads when it could be a system in their firm that could be revamped, improved to increase the close rate. Really, what are we talking about? Increase your conversion rate, generate more leads, increase your close rate, signing more cases from the leads that you're getting, and keeping an eye and controlling your costs, right? Whether that's marketing or operating costs, making sure if you're able to focus and have a target and hit the result on each of these, you're going to be golden when it comes to your growth goals, right? And really, no matter what it is, if it's one of these three that we talked about or something else in your firm, having a system to turn your problems into process, identify it. What is that problem? What is the target that you want to reach? What is that, number of maybe a certain number of calls per month? Or if you are, in family law, set consultations per month, right? Find the problem, set the target, set the goal, and then take action. What can that look like? That can look like adding a new marketing channel, adding LSAs. That can look like improving your intake system using a tool, an automation tool, and then be willing to notice what's working. Like Nick said before, know your numbers, measure your results, and then be willing to make changes along the way, because you're probably not going to get it perfectly right the first time, and no one does, so that's okay, right? So knowing this, how are we going to choose those automation tools to get you to the goal, whatever that is? Depends on the result you're after. So again, what is it for you? If you want to get more set consultations, you might be looking to not only use a tool that brings more leads in, but can make the process easier to set those consultations for your firm using an integration with, Intaker will integrate with Calendly or Acuity or these scheduling tools, so that maybe you don't want just anyone scheduling, but if they've gone ahead, become a qualified lead, giving those people the opportunity to set consultations, reduce the time that your team needs to go back and keep doing these follow-ups with people. Or it could be generating more inbound phone calls. I encourage everyone to stay a couple more minutes till the end, because we've got a really cool announcement about Intaker now turning chats into inbound phone calls for firms. It's called Live Call Connect. You'll see more about that. And, knowing if the cost per lead is the thing that you're after, knowing how to hit that. Nick gave us some information about LSAs, but just in general, you want to optimize your conversion rate, make sure the tools you're using are helping and not hurting you. And depending on when you got like a website chat, if you're still using, more legacy traditional chats, there is a chance that it could actually be hurting your results, right? If it's weighing down your website, causing a slower load speed, that's going to drag on your performance. Google's going to ping you, you fall lower in the SEO rankings, and it's actually more to do a PPC when you have issues with your website, tools, loading speed. So these are all things, right? When you're using automation tools, it's more than just one thing to pay attention to. And then when you want to implement that tool, what does it look like? There's a few things that, always need to be taken into account. It needs to be effective. It needs to get the job done, right? Deliver those results that you need. It needs to be intuitive, because your team, if they're using this, if there's any kind of interface with your team members using some new tool that you give them and say, hey, this is going to help us grow. If it's difficult, clunky, not intuitive, they're not going to use it. Adoption goes down. And now you've got a fancy, paperweight, is that what they call it? Yeah, so just make sure that when you're choosing these tools, you look for something that is not just intuitive, but scalable, meaning it can be, if you're starting small, it can start with you now. And then as you grow, looking, 1, 2, 5 years out, as you really start to increase the size of your firm, hire more people, and maybe expand into more areas, right? Whatever tool you use has to be scalable, because the switching cost later is going to be so much more painful than if you just choose the right one up front, knowing, again, what your target is, where you want to go, how much you want to grow, and what tools can support you through that process. So obviously, if we're here, we're talking at least a little bit about website chat, right? Because, and by the way, if anyone in the chat, maybe isn't using website chat, I know, chat. If in the Zoom chat here, if you're not using website chat, and you feel like, you know why that is, I'd love to hear it. Oftentimes people think I'm not using website chat because I don't like to use chat on websites, right? That's probably the most common thing I hear. And I totally get it because, especially if the chat kind of sucks, it is a drag and, an eyesore and all that stuff. But for a lot of people, right, they prefer it. And so it's not just about you and what you want, but rather putting yourself in the position of someone who's looking for help. Your website has great information, but if they don't have an easy way to get in touch, they may come and go, right? And your website might have, you could have helped them. You could have helped them get whatever that result is. But if they don't ever raise their hand and say hello, it's a done deal, right?
Well, Joe, if I can, going back to that last slide, one of the things I want to kind of inform people about, who maybe aren't using chat or who have had bad experiences with chat is a couple of years ago across the co-op, we did a big study, and this was before we had met you all, and I think it was even before you all maybe had been started. This is about 5 or 6 years ago. And we did a big study on chat with some of the legacy chat services out there. Everyone knows, who they are. And we made a blanket wide recommendation to all of the firms that we work with that you stop using chat. And the reason for that was data backed. It was because we saw net quality leads go down with some of these legacy chat softwares. And the reason that was because a lot of these AI, or what they're purporting to be AI chat softwares, just were not intelligent enough yet. And so when you would ask them a real question, they would just completely fall apart. And what we found, before we started talking, I was a chat skeptic for years. And net leads actually were less than just contact forms and phone calls. And there's a slew of reasons for that. It also impacted SEO. They were slow. And so we made just the blanket recommendation, hey, nobody used chat. And then, we met about a year ago, and, around that time, a couple of the firms we'd started working with had, been using you all and kind of this more. One of the things I love is that right off the bat, you see a video, it's not some, hey, I'm Joe's bot. It feels more personal. You have a direct opportunity to say, hey, and I don't want to go too far into it, but the point is we saw a lot of differences with you all, and we had really, really good feedback that has really turned us around on the view of how to use chat. And so I think for people that maybe had bad experiences with legacy providers for some of the reasons I just said, maybe consider this a little differently.
Beautiful. Yes. Nick, thank you, man. I'm so happy that, a couple of those early mutual clients connected us. And I don't know if any of those are employment law, but I know there's a couple of big employment law firms using this as well. So I'm not sure who it was in the chat, Jennifer, but if you're curious, what this can do maybe for an employment law, happy to chat. Okay, guys, I know I've kept you here a little bit longer than I said I would. So I want to just talk about this, right? Chat is the best way to increase conversion rate, get more leads in the door. However, a lot of law firms have a problem. The problem is when they get those leads, they don't always turn into phone calls, right? They call them, goes to voicemail, and there's all sorts of other tools, follow-up automation you can use to increase the connection rate. But what if you could bypass all that and just with one simple thing, turn every chat lead into an inbound phone call, right? If you hang out for another minute, we're actually going to go through a quick demo of this, but what is this going to do? Imagine if you get, I don't know, let's say you get, 10 chats a week, right? And then it turns out that at the current rate, you only ever, reach out, speak to 4 or 5 of them within the first, 30 minutes of the lead coming in. And those numbers might not be wildly off. Depending on your own firm's response time, if you get back to people within 60 seconds of the lead coming in, your numbers are probably higher. If you wait a little bit longer, your numbers probably are not as high. It doesn't matter if you're bankruptcy, if you're family law, if you're personal injury, any practice area, right? You're going to see results. If you can get people on the phone faster, meaning when they're still on your website, going ahead and being able to turn that chat into a phone call. And we're going to talk about that, right? And just real quick, if before we do that, I forgot about the slide, sorry, is what lead management is going to let you do is have a system to, yes, get back to leads faster. When you can see them, you're not losing track. And having a place for everyone on your team to be on the same page about what the status is of each lead. If you're using other automation tools like texting, SMS, email automation, sending reminders, sending follow-ups, doing all of that automatically, right? That's a bunch of the benefits of lead management. And again, Integer is not the only tool. We integrate with some other great ones. So depending on your firm, what you use, I might actually recommend an integration instead of Integer's lead management. Again, depending on what you're already using and what your goals are. And so here's an important thing, because I wanted this part of the presentation to be all about those different intake automation and growth automation. And sometimes you need to use tools, more than one. You need to integrate them together. And to do that, you need to know what you're getting into, right? Because I see problems where firms might try to do certain things that on their own that might require a little more support, or if they have one person at the firm who is in charge of this and then they quit, and things fall apart quickly. So there's two things I want to mention. Number one, if possible, using native integrations is a great way, because those are easy for softwares to just link together, without using a third party. Those are the easiest to manage. If you want to make a change, you can typically do that yourself. But depending on the tools that you choose to use, some will not have that option. Some will require using a third party integration tool like Zapier, which is amazing, by the way. However, if you're not familiar, if you're not the most tech savvy, you could run to an issue where things break, you don't know what to do. So if you're going to do it yourself, just kind of know what you're getting into. There's all sorts of different consultants. Nick, I know Matador doesn't do this kind of work directly, but even you work with like a list of other consultants, implementation folks that could help with this kind of stuff. Is that right?
Yep, exactly.
Very cool. So, just that's a quick aside. All right. So anyway, and if you know a little bit about Integer, we do all the above, right? So the more tools you can combine into one, the less you have to integrate, the less things break, the happier everyone is. But let's find out about this Call Connect. I'm really excited. Nick, are you excited?
Ecstatic.
All right, cool. Thanks.
I was on mute. Yeah, let's see it.
That's funny. All right, cool. So again, this demo, if you're here with us still, just take a minute, but being able to go from chat to phone call, what does that look like? Again, if you haven't seen Integer before, if you're new to the family, using video and chat to go ahead, create more of that compelling message. And I can send you a million good examples, but I'm actually going to skip my video for now, just in the interest of time. But it's a nice way to add that personal warmth, that note that I mentioned before, right? So now what happens here when someone's chatting, and I'm actually going to use my friend Bruno. He's in the other room. Let's say that I'm Bruno. I'm having a hard time. I got into a car accident, and now I need some help. So I came to a law firm, right? And so now someone at the law firm is going to get a phone call. You might hear that phone ringing. Someone at the law firm gets a call from Integer saying, hey, we got someone about car accidents. Let's hear what it sounds like.
Hi there. You have a new inquiry from Integer. Their name is Bruno Mastrocasa, and it is about car accident. Press 1 to connect.
You hear that, Nick? Forgive the static, you guys. So I'm on a call and on Zoom. Bear with me. Hello, Bruno?
Hey, is this the Ruotolo law firm?
Yeah, Bruno, I just saw you, we're chatting on our website about a car accident. What's going on?
Yeah, man, I was driving to work this morning. I accidentally blew through a red light and T-boned another car, and I could really use some legal help going forward with this.
Yeah, well, you stay on the line. I'm going to get the right person to help you, and I'm sorry to hear that, man, but too bad it's your fault. Anyway, Bruno, just hang out for a bit, okay?
Will do. Thank you.
All right. Yep. Well, okay. Sometimes you can't control the calls that you get. I don't think we're going to get Bruno any compensation if he ran through a red light and T-boned someone, but it was a good shot. Anyway, so being able to take that, I hope that was clear. I hope that wasn't a waste, but going from chat to phone call to really shorten that connection time so that someone is able to, even when they're still on your website, still filling out the chat, getting that call from the firms, like, wow, talk about response time. And the person on the other side does get a note saying you're getting a call from Ruotolo Law in this case, or whatever the name of your law firm is, so that they kind of know when they get the call before they connect with me, what's going on. Anyway, that's a little bit of a quick demo for today, brand new feature. If you're part of the Intaker family already and want to get started with something like this, hit me up. We're going to have the Q&A slide in just a bit, but yeah, that's what I got for that part. Nick, what do you think?
I think the new feature is great, Joe. I think it's going to be very valuable for conversion. I think it's going to be great. And if anyone has questions on any LSA or organic or map listings, my email is there. You can scan that, or you can throw some questions out right now.
Very cool. I know we went a little bit over, but thank you all for kind of being here. Yeah, by the way, I don't know if Kirk or anyone who was currently using LSAs, happy to, have a quick chat and, bring you up to kind of hear what feedback is from people actually using these things, who might not have like a guide, a trusted expert like Matador to kind of help them out. And maybe we could do some hot seats, but if not, Nick, let's say that someone is maybe curious about getting help with their LSAs. What's the best way to get in touch? Would it be to email you, or what should they do?
Shoot me an email. That's the best way to do it. And, I'll personally sit down with you and, chat with you a little bit about what's available to you if you want to use the internet. If you've never used the internet, our recommendation would be focus on your Google reviews and then start with SEO and then layer in LSAs later, but we'll help you figure out what makes the most sense for you.
Very cool. Very cool. And where can they find you on like social media and stuff like that?
LinkedIn is the best. I'm not big on, the Instagram or the Facebook, and, even my picture was 6 years ago. So probably LinkedIn is the best.
Very cool, man. Well, I think, we went a little bit over. Just a big shout out to everyone who stuck with us, from start to finish. And I think, what is it? Giselle, Jake, Jennifer, Kirk is still here, man. Curious about your LSAs if you want to come on board. Come on the stage and talk. But Lucy, Michael, Michelle, Michael again, and Yanni and Jennifer. Wow, I love the Y names. But thank you all for being here all the way to the end. If there's anything else, you got a few seconds, but otherwise we're going to close this out. So, and surfing, where are we going, Nick? We going to Venice Beach?
We'll go to County Line in Malibu. We'll put a bunch of, we'll go north, and I've got boards for all that want to come. And we could also go to Venice, but it's crowded, so we'll figure it. The water's warmer though. But
we're going to County Line. I love it.
Yeah.
Very cool. And Giselle, if you want more information, you can either email me and Nick, or also scan those QR codes with your phone. That'll take you to, oops, oh my God, what happened? That'll take you to, sorry, everything just went crazy. The calendars, you can schedule a time with me or with Nick. And if you want to use Call Connect, schedule with me. If you want to learn more about Matador and everything they offer, schedule with Nick. Otherwise, looking forward to surfing, man. And thank you all. It's really a pleasure. Until next time.
Thanks for having me, Joe. Thanks everyone for showing up. See y'all soon.
Cheers, everybody. Peace out.